Hi there guys, Sam here. You join me in a Mark 4.5 Focus ST. I'm here with the owner of an ownership review, a little bit of an update on this facelift. How have you found this car initially, early on, for like people watching? 5,000 miles you've done. How have you found it?
It's been great. It's a good all-rounder, good daily. Press sport mode. When a back road opens up, and it's great fun, and it just does everything you want. You know, manual, enough power. Well, with a few tweaks, which it had enough power, and it's added a little bit more, just to add that extra fun. Ticks all the boxes for me.
I love the looks of it. I'm a sucker for grey, hot hatches, like kind of my Golf R. But what I'll do is I'll put the stats on the screen, possibly in front of your face for the second. But what are we talking stock? We're sort of, it's 280.
280. Yeah. 450 Newton meters.
Yeah.
There or thereabout.
This, which we'll come into probably in a separate video, we'll do a real proper in depth in it. You've mount tuned this, so it's got a little bit more power.
Go for it.
Should we just start off in, obviously, plenty of different modes, big screen?
So sport mode, firm suspension, weightier steering, the throttle response increases, and the engine noise more into the cabin, and pops and bangs from the exhaust as well, so you get all that.
And that was the thing we were saying, there isn't an individual setting in here.
No, and that is one thing actually I would add, cause I would probably personally have it in the softer suspension, and everything else as the sport mode.
So racetrack and sport is the same sort of harder suspension. Normal slippery, it's soft.
Yeah, the only difference between sport and racetrack is the traction control. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's a little bit more looser.
Yeah, racetrack, basically traction control's turned off, more or less, yeah.
And it's a little bit wet today, so I think actually, surprisingly, you've literally got the exact same driving position as me. I think I'm finding this more and more with subscribers I meet up with. We're all pretty much the same. Your car is pretty well spec'd, I must say. So you got the pan roof, you've got the, is it magnetic grey?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I would go for, which, and a reversing camera. So is this like an ST3 spec? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so they got rid of the ST1, 2 and 3, and as far as I know, you just add on some extras. So it's basically an ST3 now, it's the standard car, and then you add on things like the pan roof and heads-up display.
Okay. And
I think in some regions, I'm not sure if the UK is one of them, you can get an STX.
Okay.
Which is basically it's fully kitted out, as far as I'm aware.
That's interesting.
So that's the easiest sort of box to tick to fully kit it out.
I mean, Ford have always, the thing is, it's only recently manufacturers have sort of done this whole packages kind of thing.
Please try again.
Oh, let's get rid of that. That does happen sometimes. I'm not sure what the command word is.
Is it picking up on some sort of like, you say something, can it?
Yeah, Ford.
Yeah. There is actually another video that we've done before, and we've met up before with, what, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, back in August.
So you've had a little bit more time to kind of enjoy it and get used to it. I'll link that in the description as well for you guys who want to check it out, because this car is still proper rare. I have not seen a facelift.
I've seen one.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
okay.
Black one. Yeah.
Okay. What, an ST or just a normal?
No, an ST.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was, and it looked really nice in black, to be fair.
Oh, that's cool. They have actually got the proportions really right, actually, I feel, with this, because you know how sometimes the lines don't always work, particularly with facelifts. I don't know. You know the last Focus ST, when they went to a facelift, they sort of messed up the rear. With this, I just feel like it looks really, really good. They're really, really sharp at the front. Yeah,
for me, the front headlights just sort of set it, off. The pre-facelift looked a bit rounded for my taste.
Yeah. And I luckily spent a bit of time in the pre-facelift one as well. So what's been like, I suppose, the biggest highlight so far for you, just for the car, particularly compared to maybe what you've owned before?
I think it's the chassis, to be honest. The way it handles, the way it makes you, I think it flatters you as a driver. Yeah. Front wheel drive cars, you can get a bit of understeer, you can get a bit, sketchy if you're on it, but it just looks after you. It just digs in, and just when you think you're getting understeer, it turns in on itself. It grips and it goes, and it's quite surprising.
Is this a mechanical front diff, or is it?
I think it's an electronic assisted. Yeah, okay. I'm not very technical in that.
But it's definitely it's got something like some torque vectoring or something to help out of the front.
And compared to my Mark 3, that uses sort of brake torque vectoring.
Yeah.
And that worked well, but this is more sending the power to an outside wheel rather than braking the inside wheel, which makes a massive difference. But it just gives you that feeling of fun, and you can sort of play with it. it's not too serious, but at the same time, you know, you can. You know, I could take it on the track probably.
You definitely could take it on a track, and actually something that I mentioned before, you know, they've released the track pack as part of this now as well, which is interesting, and interesting because you've gone down the route which for me does make a lot of sense. You've gone for a little bit more power with mount tune, which is super cool. But the thing is, even with the track pack, if you really wanted to, you could get that suspension fitted. You could do the extra little bits if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I've even considered when the brakes are due for replacement, I might go for them Brembo brakes. Yeah,
exactly, and that's like so just for people who don't know, that's like it's like a £3,000 option, which wasn't available when you obviously selected it anyway. You actually do get things. You get the bigger brakes, you get you get firmer suspension. You don't get the adaptive stuff, as far as I'm aware.
No, you don't. That's for me. That's something I think I would miss.
Yeah, and I think you would as well. A lot of manufacturers do that, and certainly on the road, we're in its softest setting now, and it feels normal. It generally feels like a Focus, and
I mean, it's a little bit firmer. I think the standard Focus, obviously, but it's livable.
It's definitely livable. I mean, I think everyone has kind of like their own tolerance in what they're happy with. For me, I'm being a person who's tried a lot of hot hatches, and you know, drive a Golf R for the last 5 years, and had a Fiesta ST before. This is fine. You can tell when a car just gets that little bit too over the top.
You know, sorry, compared to like the AMG you drove and the GTI. In terms of the comfort, is it on a par with them, or? So
you know what, the GTI TCR, which was the last video I did, with the DCC on that was super compliant. I think it was a lot because of that just felt like a really, you expect it to be really properly serious, but then when you turn it down, it does go quite easy.
A bit more flexibility with that, yeah.
Hard to tell actually. It is quite hard to tell early on because it's hard to with the certain roads. But I would say probably, give or take, they're all quite similar actually. But I love how you have that option, and in all of them with the A35 as well, you don't have to be that full flat hard. You know, you've got a family, you don't always want to be completely rock solid. How have you got on with like the tech? Just, I mean, I'm not like, I love my tech, but I'm more in for like the driving and enjoying it. How have you found it? Like, because it's obviously a big screen. Yeah, does it work okay on the move?
I think I'm the same as you. I'm not interested in tech taking over the car.
Yeah.
And I watched car reviews, things like that. And I've seen people moaning about the new Volkswagen entertainment.
Yeah, you know, me included.
Things like that. And I've got to admit, I think that's when it goes too far. Whereas I think Ford have kept this simple enough. Yeah. Yes, it's a big screen, but it's like the climate controls and all the things you need quick access to stay at the bottom of the screen permanently. You don't have to go into a menu. You don't really have to take you off the road too much. And when you get used to it, I don't really feel it's a big sort of not downgrade, it's the wrong word, but it's not any more complicated than physical control. So that's something that I found really easy, intuitive, and I'm happy with it.
No, that's good. I mean, I think, and even with all manufacturers, they're just going bigger and bigger on the screens, and this is now the norm. And again, one of the reasons why this car is so hard to get hold of in this kind of spec is because you just can't get the parts, you can't get the computer chips, you can't get all of this kind of stuff. So even just to be in it in October 2022, and you've had it for, so when did you actually purchase this car?
Early May.
May. So you've had a decent amount of time to get a good understanding.
5,000 miles on the clock.
Perfect amount, because engine's still sort of getting itself sort of all sorted. How's like economy been? Like
mixed, to be fair. So obviously, you know, when you first get when I first got it, I was driving it fairly sensibly, trying to sort of bed the engine in. So getting the revs reasonably high. So it wasn't great economy then. And then once it had bedded in and I'd had a bit of fun in it, I then tried to get economy. You know, I wanted to see what I could get out of it. You can get 40 plus out of it.
That's good.
Yeah, on a run. It's no good on a commute. You're getting low 20s on a commute. So my wife uses it
if you like stop, starty, slow moving,
so it's poor for that.
That's pretty much what you're going to get for most hatches, and even in normal mode, makes a good noise.
If I'm being honest, I would actually, given the choice, I'd have it a bit quieter in normal mode. Ooh. That's my preference.
Is that as quiet as it goes? So it's probably got a little bit of sound imposer battery.
Yeah,
maybe.
as long as
It's
you keep the revs down, it is quieter. As soon as you go up in the revs, it does then pump in more noise.
You've got your 6th gear in you as well, and so 19-inch wheels, and that was one thing I probably didn't actually mention in the TCR as well. I found like the tyres are quite wide and quite large, and there was sometimes a little bit of like tyre noise and stuff. How have you found it with this? Is it?
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? Until you talk about it, you don't notice it. But then you start tuning into it.
When everything's like, when you've got like no radio or nothing on, it's like you're obviously going to hear stuff. So
it's difficult for me to say because you're fortunate you get to drive lots of cars, so you can compare and contrast. But I mean, I've just got my previous cars, and I think for what it is, it's quiet. It's a quiet as I could ask for it to be, really, for the type of car it is.
Definitely. Well, I mean, it feels Liverpool. I think that's the main thing, and like we can see at the back, you can have your kids here, and it's super great in that regard, and that's what Hot Hatches is all about. It's just proper pure fun, and with the manual as well, you're just having something which is not going to be around for that much longer. So you've really got that kind of special part.
Yeah, I think this could be, but hopefully it'll be a keeper. I can't imagine Ford or any of the manufacturers bringing anything out that's going to, they're going to go hybrid, aren't they, next step? Or maybe go full electric and miss that step.
It's such a shame with fast Fords being so prevalent and really exciting in the UK, and certainly for me being a great fast Ford fan as well, and yourself, they're just not going and pushing this route. Like, they didn't do an RS, which was a real shame. That would
if they made an RS with this, this platform, I think it would have been awesome. To be fair.
It would have been good because they already had the full. They could have just kept the same four-wheel drive. They literally could have just put the exact same stuff in the facelift look. And given it a little bit more power.
The way this goes down a road for a front-wheel drive, it actually, there's part of me thinks maybe they don't need an RS. It's that good. But there's always that crowd that wants that four-wheel drive, wants the drift mode. They want to be able to do 0 to 60 as fast as they can. I'm personally not interested in that part of a car. I'm more about flowing down the road, enjoying second gear onwards. That's where I find the fun and the enjoyment. But an RS, 400 plus horsepower in this.
That would be great, and it would obviously be able to put its power down quite well also.
Days like today.
It was quite slippery on the road, but it's luckily going to be quite bright and enjoyable. So this is still in our normal mode. Oh, I see what you mean. It makes a little bit more noise than you'd probably think for a normal, but then hot hatch, isn't it?
I think it just wants to remind you that it's ready to go. It's always there.
It's got that engine to really punch. I love driving cars like this just smoothly, if that makes sense. Fifth gear is quite actually nice on sort of like a 50-60 mile an hour back road because you have enough torque. It's not too loud and noisy, so you can still enjoy things, have a conversation, and you just sort of flow with the roads. We've been here before, and it's really, really nice roads around here, and just to enjoy. And the car's really nice. So, from my view, I think it offers what certainly probably a lot of my audience and yourself like in a car. Very understated, magnetic grey, super nice colour, and super nice kind of like fleck in it. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. I can imagine what I'm going to find as it gets louder and more excited as you get on.
It turns it up a notch.
It does turn it up, and again, because I've driven this car stock, and you've obviously spent time with it stock as well. Makes a good noise as well with the exhaust, even without anything, doesn't it?
It's got that Jekyll and Hyde thing to it, because when you do go into sports mode, it's hard to explain, but it comes alive when you're on it, when you're on the throttle.
I like that.
And when you're going through a bend, because it does this, and again, a lot of modern turbo cars do this, but Ford call it anti-lag. It's not anti-lag like a rally car, but it just keeps the turbo spooling. So when you do get back on the power, it's there, it's instant. There's less turbo lag. And that makes a big difference because you're on the move, you go in, the car knows you're having a bit of fun, if that makes sense, and it's allowing that to happen, and that's when it comes alive. So it's hard to explain, but in normal mode, if you put your foot down in 4th, 5th gear, you do get that lag. Because obviously the turbo's not spooling because you're not in that sport mode, so it does make a big difference.
You need to, and I found this car actually to be really good, sort of actually low down and in the mid-range actually, compared to, if I compare it to other cars that I've driven. I found it lapped at the top end, which is exactly what I think you're yeah, your mount tune kit, which we're going to have to talk about, is literally going to change it, because you know, for well, it's about £600, but you got it on a nice little offer.
Yeah, 20% discount. That was the kind of, I was going to wait, and then I saw that offer.
Like,
Mount Tune knew what they were doing. Sent the email, and that was it. We pulled the trigger on it. So.
Mount Tune are great, because I like the British Touring Car Championship, and I always see their sponsorship and the work they do, and it's obviously a British type tuning company. They're so specific on Ford.
Yeah, that's why I've chosen them. It's that Ford relationship.
Like I said, we'll do something dedicated on that, but I will touch on that as we kind of get things a little bit on. How have you found this car pushing on, both with the mount tune and both without, I guess?
Yeah, so before the mount tune, I felt like some corners, some slow corners, you felt like you were torn between second and third.
Okay.
You had the sort of drama of second, and the higher revs, the more noise, but you felt like it was running out of puff. So you wanted third to ride the torque.
Okay.
Whereas with the mount tune, second is, you've still got both options, but both options work equally well. And actually, you want to go and do that run again.
Yeah.
To one run, do it in second and experience that, and then go and do it again in third. It's kind of, that's how I'd explain it. It's just made it more versatile. Giving it a bit more a sort of dynamic. The engine's more dynamic now, if that kind of makes any sense. It's kind of allowed to breathe, but you can rev it out now, and you feel like you're getting the most power out of it by doing that.
For a bang for buck, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent increase, and to get that, I guess you do. It's not just an ECU.
It's an air filter as well. Stage 1, it's just an air filter. I think a lot of stage 1s you do have to have some hardware fitted, but I think because the engine,
it's a good engine.
It's a 2.3 litre. It's the one that was in the RS. I think it's ready for more power without doing too much.
Oh, completely. It's already been tried and tested for 345 horsepower, hasn't it? And then there was a mount tune on the RS to 380, and that was sort of like maybe an air filter would pretty much do it. How have you found this car? Like, because we've had summer.
Yeah.
So was it better in the dry, like compared to, like, obviously we get a lot of wet, slip-free. Even like today, it's clear, but it's wet on the ground. It's quite cold outside, being in October. Has it been okay, or is it like at all distracted from any of the fun that you've had?
No, if anything, the wet adds to the drama. You know, it feels like it. Obviously, there's a little bit more going on with the diff.
Yeah.
You can feel it doing its thing, but you don't feel like it's taken away from the fun. But you also don't feel like it's going to throw you into a ditch or you're going to lose control. It's got that nice balance where you can still enjoy it. Yes, slightly slower speeds, but I'm not someone that goes ridiculously fast anyway. You know, I stick within the speed limits.
Exactly.
And you don't need to be going
within the limits.
Exactly. So within the limits, it's absolutely fine. You know, the chassis is great, and I was surprised actually. I remember from my old Mark III, that was great in the wet. You know, so I knew it would be okay, but it was nice to actually get out when it first started raining again, because the summer was just, there was no rain, was there? It was just dry. So, you know, I didn't get to experience the sort of wet weather driving in it until the last few weeks, and it's been great. And
it keeps you on your toes as well.
It does, yeah.
And I found with the TCR, you manage to throttle a lot more. It is classic hot hatch, and it reminds people of what I really enjoyed about cars as well. Something that can do everything. You can live with this every day. You can have your family with it, but then you can go out on your own. You can have some fun.
Yeah, you can enjoy it and get something back from it without it being too easy. You know, it does make you fight a little bit, and it makes you want to drive. It makes you feel like a driver. That's the thing I like about it.
Yeah,
it's not doing everything for you, but it is. I know it is, but it makes you feel like you're doing it. You know, it's one of them.
And the great thing is this is really, really fun on the road, on a little back road. You know, you don't need huge amounts of power. You don't need crazy amount. You don't also want super firm suspension either. You know, this is flowing really nice. But at the same time, I'm fortunate that I've driven this car on track around Thruxton, and it's really fun on track as well.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, really, really good fun. I'll say about all hot hatches, they're all so great. But I would say Fords have that extra touch on the fun side.
Yeah, they take themselves less seriously.
Yes.
If you want serious, you go Type R, you know, or go down that route.
Yep.
If you want manual, that is front wheel drive. And you know, if you want something a bit more laid back, a bit more fun, I think Ford have got the balance there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And obviously, being a VW Audi Group fan, great cars, but for the extra little bit of fun, I've always personally found these a little bit better. But let's knock it into sport mode, because okay, yeah, so that's done and made a difference. Okay, so that is, yeah, it's more power because you can feel the front.
It's the torque, I think, is the biggest.
Yeah, you can easily keep this quite low. Got a gorgeous day, obviously low sun. This is what they're about, isn't it? Yeah. It's like
that third gear punch now.
You can absolutely just keep it like third, fourth with the extra power. And I checked on the Mountain website actually to show the power graph, and like between stock and normal, and it's between stock and the Mountain, and you can completely see how they've just ironed out the curves so much better. Because manufacturers, like, and I can tell you firsthand, when I drove this car, it dropped off past 5,500. It was kind of like, oh, there's no need to rev it out, which is fine because you can kind of drive it within that kind of way. Brakes feel really good as well, so I do wonder if the track pack is even kind of worth it for that little extra.
The brakes are great. I actually got tested on the brakes last night.
Oh no, yeah, well you sometimes do, don't you?
Yeah, there was a car going to a roundabout.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, that's the limitation of the front wheel drive.
We got a lot of wheel spin there. If you didn't notice.
But the thing is, you get to know, like, because I know the car now in the wet, I would have gone for one higher gear and ride that torque rather than letting the power come in. But again, that's something you
learn as you kind of go across it.
Because then you do that and you want to go again. You know, you think right. So that's the part of the fun for me.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
But yeah, I was saying, so the brakes coming to a roundabout last night in the wet, and the car in front, and again, this was my fault, because I anticipated they were going to go, and they lifted off the brake light went off, but then they hesitated and stopped again, so I had to slam my brakes on, so I started to go with them, and it stopped on a dime, to be fair. It was
this feels really, really good, and I think Ford have something called a brake booster, I think it's called, something extra, which when you really need to be on it, it will help you out. But yeah, I feel it really good. Proper big discs. Brakes are really, really great on this car, and it's good that you've said that as well. How you've kind of find it, as that guy has just completely decided to drive the wrong side of the road
on a blind crest and a bench
and a bike. And he was in a rear drive BMW, so everything was wrong in that move. But you saw it on the camera, them going the other way. Anyway, and this is why you drive within the limits and you have fun, and you just, you know, you don't upset people. People want to go on a cycle ride, then go on a cycle ride.
You've got to share the road with other people.
Exactly. I've got to say, I really enjoyed this, and I love my hot hatches, and I think for me, you've got to look at just the whole spectrum of the cars are so great. And I think in 2022, the Focus ST is probably priced as good as you're going to get out of all of them, because they've all gone to the moon in terms of price.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
so you take
I'll admit, when I was signing the paperwork, I'm thinking, what we're doing spending this money on. I mean, luckily my old car had got that much value in it.
That you've done
well with. The deposit made a big difference, so that was kind of, that swung it. But at the same time, you know,
people like us are completely getting priced out. It's just getting to a stage where it doesn't make sense. One thing I haven't mentioned as well, rev matching is quite nice. I still have the jerky moments in my R. Has that worked quite flawlessly for you in general?
It's perfect. And actually, I don't get out enough to enjoy the car as I'd like, so I can heel and tow.
Nice.
And after I've been driving for a few hours, I get quite good at it. But then you might not get out for another month, and then it just, you know, it's not as natural. So for me, it's just taking one element of driving. I mean, you know, it is part of the enjoyment of driving. That skill is taken away, but how often you get to use it
for this kind of.
I'd rather just have it.
And it does protects the clutch as well. Dealing with the undulations so well. The power definitely results in more wheel spin, but then you've just got to manage the throttle. And once it hooks up, tyres get warm, all that kind of thing. It feels like it's got a really good punch.
That's a good point actually. The tyre, you know, when you are on it and you're driving it and you're enjoying it, it starts to wake up. It just gets better, and you kind of get more confidence. And you get the conditions on that day you start to get used to, and that's part of the fun for me.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got one thing I'm noticing: the seats are brilliant. Ford nail it with seats completely. Now that they've got these in-house ones instead of the Recaros, people might have been a bit sceptical. They've actually probably done them even better.
I mean, I had the Caros in my Mark III, and I think these are on a par, if not slightly better, if I'm being honest. I might be biased.
They feel more comfortable than say my R, but they're almost as supportive, particularly in the shoulders. Like, I really feel like I can go around a bend and, you know, the car's going to fall off before you fall out of the seat, kind of thing, which is always, yeah, the kind of balance you want to be. But really, like, wide as well for like your legs. It's weird from my side, like, I can't really think of too many negatives of this car, to be honest, particularly when you look at where we're at today. We can't complain too much. Yes, I would rather this car not be approaching the £40,000 mark. I'd rather it be 30,000, but that is where we are. We have to kind of accept that. I mean, actually, considering how rare this car is, if someone wanted this off you, you'd probably get your money back, if not more. Yeah, it's. But we're in a bit of a weird kind of stage. What's been like any negatives you kind of potentially thought you could come up with?
Yeah,
Because I can't.
A couple of little niggly things. So when I actually went to put the mount tune on,
Yeah. Okay.
I got in the car, started the process, put the ignition on, and just coincidentally a fault came up.
Ooh.
And it said the a fault with the adaptive lights, go to your nearest.
Really? So you've got the lights, which is basically full beam, and it won't affect anyone, kind of
so
thing.
that was a bit of an anticlimax to doing the mount tune, because obviously then you're thinking, well, I've actually something that voids the engine warranty.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, left, sort of turned the engine off. Didn't do the mount tune. I thought I'd wait, see what happens. Booked it in at Ford, and then just over the weekend, just driving it around, the fault code went away. It disappeared straight away, and then we had to wait until the lights came on the adaptive lights, because they only come on with the automatic lights. You can't force them on, the adaptive lights, manually.
Right.
So when it got dark,
you always have to wait for a
till it was
situation.
dark, exactly. So I went out and they were absolutely fine, and they've been fine ever since. And I cancelled the visit to Ford. So I'm not really sure what that was about.
Actually, just as we kind of continue from that, the tech and the
It says no. Do you want to change it? We'll send it back.
and all the tech, all the voice activation, and all the computer power and everything is probably what does detract, I suppose, from the kind of soul of a car. And I think we're only going one way. It's only going to get more like that. That's.
I mean, I've been having a spirited drive, and the collision assist has come on.
Yeah,
and that terrifies you.
I can already feel like the lane keeping kind of coming on, and I'm sure there's a way to turn it off.
Yeah, but I've set it to the minimum. You can't turn it off completely, just to minimum. So yeah.
So it's things like that which, and if you don't want that kind of stuff, I advise. I love cars from 2017 and beyond. Before, because you didn't have OPFs, which deadened noise, you had less rules, there was less tech, but enough tech. That's me, and that's why I have a 2017 car.
Yeah.
But hey, not everyone's like me, and this is what we're kind of at. And I suppose you can turn off the infotainment, you can turn everything off, you can disconnect your phone, you can still have a pure kind of experience.
Yeah, well, more pure than it currently is,
Yeah.
You don't have to connect your phone. So there is that, but you're right, a lot of the assistance it's there to make it safer, but it can distract from a fun drive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just pushing on a little bit on the car, you can feel it. It's definitely it follows the bumps and the roads quite a lot, and I don't think it helps with the lane keeping assist, because I can feel the wheel kind of tugging to make.
So have a quick look in the menu.
Yeah, go for it. And this is a good example, actually, because it's like, let's change something for a bit of a moment, and it's like
you have to pull over to do it if you drive it.
You literally have to do so much. I have got a few modes on the steering wheel to just change between sport, normal, slippery, and racetrack. Obviously, you can pretty much work out what each of those are going to do to the car. That is pretty much all I would play around with, particularly as you don't have an individual setting in this to kind of make things as you were. Don't worry if you can't get into it. Your Ford dealer is not going to tell you this kind of stuff. This is why I like ownership reviews, because it's like, this is just your honest opinion. This is what it's like. You put your hard-earned money into the car, and this is the experience you're kind of getting. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm looking at the screen. It's just endless, isn't it?
Yeah, so much you can do.
Absolutely endless. You've basically got a personal desktop computer. Whether or not you want that in a car is entirely up to you. You know, hey, I'm not against it if you're into it. But yeah, if we just, I suppose the final thing on this still like ownership stuff, what's like the positives, which we kind of, I kind of know what you might say. I'll pull over here and.
Yeah, I suppose the main thing for me is the all-round package. It's just that it's that ability to be driving fairly sedately, you know, just.
Oh, this camera gets a bit foggy, so you can't really. Is that like water then?
Yeah, I think it is. It'll be the ground off the road. Yeah. And these are the worst conditions. You almost want it to be raining.
Yeah,
you know,
this is like muddy,
roads,
wet, greasy, all of that. We'll stop it here.
I do know how to do that. It's that button there. So if you press on the stalk there, I just remembered. Yeah.
Lane keeping on, lane keeping off.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Well, we'll do it for the mount tune car as well. So it's got auto hold as well. There we go. So positives, it's like it's all round. And
yeah, just I mean, for me, it does everything I want a car to do.
It's really airy in here.
Yeah, I love the pan roof. Yeah,
the pan roof is really, really.
In fact,
nice.
that's the biggest reason I want to have the track pack.
I love the actual like little touches, little soft touchy bits, and I suppose people might think Fordham might be a little bit too plasticky or too cheap.
Yeah. It's compared to some of the cars you've had on the channel recently, you know, it's a step below. But for a Ford, you know, the previous Fords I always thought were pretty poor in that area. I think they've stepped the game up, and they're getting closer to them, you know, to the Volkswagen Audi group slightly. Or Volkswagen at least.
Because
anyway.
I think what they did quite a lot with this is, and what I heard of early reviews when the Mark IV Focus came out, was they actually made a lot of changes to make it more like a Mark 7 Golf R.
Right.
Mark 7 Golf, platform. So they had a few more soft touchy places, you know, a little bit more gloss black. The quality definitely improved for Ford because they were working hard to improve it from the Mark III. So if you compared this to a Mark III, it's miles better.
Yeah.
Flip side to that, when Volkswagen went from the Mark 7 to the Mark 8, potentially went the other way.
Yeah.
So actually, I think they have made a big improvement. Wheel feels really nice to hold. Gearbox is really nice to use. If you get a manual, you can get it in an auto as well. You know, 40 miles per gallon if you want it. Fun when you want it. It's a decent noise. I don't really know what more you could ask for, really.
Yeah, no, and with the mount tune now, when you are having fun, it just takes it to the next level.
It goes to the next level. And stay tuned, next video we'll just go purely on the mount tune 330. But I suppose final points, if someone was looking to get this car, would you say go for it, or would you say actually might be better checking out another rival, particularly if you're a fast Ford fan?
I think a lot of it comes down to preference.
Yeah,
everyone's got their own, you know, manufacturer preference. We all have, you know, it's maybe what you grew up with or what your first car was.
I've got my few. So I like my VW Audi Group stuff. I like my Fast Fords, and I like my Porsche, and I'm sort of in between that.
But I mean, if you know, it's definitely worth putting on the list. You know, for what I wanted, it was probably this, the Type R, the new Type R. You know, that was on my radar, and a Golf GTI.
Yep.
And it depends what you want to get out of a car. If you want to go more sort of hardcore track focus, the Type R, I think. If you want, I think a better daily would be the GTI, and you probably agree with that, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think this is kind of that fun factor in between, maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd say this is definitely more sharper than Fords just have that kind of fun ability. Even with the technology going the other way, it's almost like there's some engineers in there who are like, quickly, let's try and make this as fun as you can. It's such a big following. I mean, the biggest point when I drove this car before, because now fortunately I've spent a fair amount of time in the car, it felt much better than I'd say any kind of ST model before in terms of living daily.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the best one you're ever going to get.
Yeah. It's that refinement.
Yeah, I mean, the Fiesta ST, way harder than this, way firmer. And the Focus, it's not only more capable because it's got more stuff to it, it's actually better to live with your family. More space. I mean, there's loads of space back here. It feels really, really
I mean, we've, you know, family of four, we've had no issues. You know, we kept the car seats in the back when I was into that kind of stuff, you know, we're actually having a weekend away, and it's fine to get all the stuff in the back, get a couple of kids' bikes. You know, it's fine.
And the coolest thing as well, I think they looks might not be to everyone's preference, but you can get it in estate, and you get like a bit more of a bulbous of the back, but that's like ultimate car. Like the estate versions and stuff like that, you literally get a roof rack on it as well if you wanted to. I kind of do everything. I think the facelift looks have kind of helped and tweaked
Yeah,
things.
like I mean, personally, I love the way it looks, so that helps. That's obviously down to preference. But you know, the good thing about Ford is if you want something a bit more sort of leery, you go for the green one, you know, and it stands out a bit. But
green,
yeah.
well, you could even get the well. Can you still get it in orange, or is
No, I
that
think
for the Mark IV?
Yeah, I think the green is replaced.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I think that, you know, it looks great. It's just not what I would drive around in. You know, so
we can park this up anywhere. And some people won't even look twice.
Yeah.
I'd look twice because I'd be like, oh my god, it's a facelift model. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Other than, I would say, the huge display, which would take a bit of time to get used to, the buttons on the wheel feels quite intuitive for me to use. And then you've got a 6-speed manual gearbox, so it's like, if you know how to drive a stick shift, it's like, yeah, it's just like any car.
And I'm glad they put the sport mode button, you know, a direct. Obviously, you've got your mode button, but just to press sport.
It's like a shortcut to
yeah,
get
you know,
to
like sometimes you're driving along, you're in a world of your own, and then you see a back road that appears, and you think, I want to have a bit of fun now. Sport button, and you know, it completely changes the car in an instant, and that's it. You're off, and you can enjoy it. And then as soon as you get back to the 30-mile-an-hour zone, put it back into normal and just chill out again. I think that for me is all I want, really. I don't want complicated, you know, messing around.
I'm literally exactly the same. I go from like eco, race.
Yeah.
That's my two. You know, I don't want anything else. I want dead quiet when I'm cruising on the motorway, and then if I find a back road, why would I want to be in anything other than let's have some fun kind of mode? It's going to be so interesting to see where Ford go from here. It is going to be nothing like what we're seeing right now.
I think we're at the end of anything.
It's literally
like
an end of an era. You're watching a video which is like, this is it. Basically.
So, you know, and I'm by default, I'll be forced to keep this car, which is probably a good thing.
Stay tuned, next video, which is going to come on the channel, mounting. Let us know any questions you have in the comments.